Hello, everyone. Hi. We are bringing to you another live from Lakshmi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Aishwarya, Riya, Gayatri, Avani. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we have today a very, very interesting live. Um, yes, Suta. Hi, hello, Suta Handel. You've joined us. We are waiting for you to send us a request. And yes, there we are. Okay, while we just wait for. Hi, Sujata. Hi, Anna.
Hi Preeti, how are you?
Very well. I almost decided that I should wear a sari for this live, but let me just put on lovely earrings and just be as Indian as I can be. But it's so nice to see both of you. Welcome, and very excited doing this live with you guys. So everybody joining us, this is a live in the series of Unstereotype with Lakshmi. And I think Sujata and Tanya and the company they've set up is a perfect fit for Unstereotype. I think, guys, you have unstereotyped the sari to a different level. And it makes me very, very proud each time. I think all of us watch your post and we see what you're doing with, what is our heritage, right, and our legacy, and we just love every bit of it. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for us.
Thank you so much. We're all about unstereotyping. I think in daily lives also we try to unstereotype as much as possible, right? All of us. So I think, yeah, when we hear that we have unstereotypes, sari wearing just makes us proud and happy.
Great, but I have this big question, guys. You are management graduates, engineers. Why the sari? Like, what made you start this? What made you start Suta?
There are a lot of reasons actually. There's not just one. But why saris? It was, because when we were in the corporates and we wanted to wear saris for meetings and for daily, regularly also. We wanted these soft saris which our mother and grandmother regularly wore, and not the fancy ones which, they took out for occasions sometimes. So we were looking out for those, and then we didn't find them in the local stores at all. And there was no brand which we knew would provide us those. And when we went to the stores, they said, "ये तो विधवा आंटी लोग के लिए साड़ी है, आप क्यों ले रहे हो ये? बिल्कुल border नहीं है, there's no color, this is plain, this is just single color. Why are you taking this?" So we just wanted to, that notion to go away. We wanted to have. So we felt that there are other women like us who are probably looking out for these simple saris also, and even if not simple, probably just remembering so that sari should feel like home, and we used to feel that. So we launched a brand. We felt that there's a need, there's a gap, and the other reason is that in the corporates, when happy working in the corporates, I was in IBM strategy, she was with the steel industry, and she was doing a PhD, all that. But we, looking back, we realized that will we be happy doing what we have been doing since ever, forever, or in future we want to see ourselves somewhere else, do some impact in the society, to start something, and we always wanted to start something on our own. We didn't know that would be called entrepreneurship back then when we were very young, but yes, so we also wanted to have an impact in the society, and that's when we both decided that since there's a gap and there's an intent, so it's the right time to quit.
Amazing. I mean, and I get you when you say that wearing saris to office. I think I was just telling you the other day that I would wear saris. I'm very fond of wearing saris. I'd wear saris to office. And even my own brother would look at me and say, something happening today,
Yeah.
So I get that completely. And I think, Tanya, you just said that, Sujata, you just said that when we were young, that's very hard to believe. I think looking at you too, I don't know how you could be younger, but yes,
Look who's
tell,
speaking. Look who's saying this.
uh, tell me, how did you go about setting this up? You were you were like in comfortable jobs, you were earning your money to take that plunge, even if you knew, if at that point you didn't know this was entrepreneurship, but to you knew that you're taking that risk, right, in starting just something of your own. So how did you go about it? I'm very curious to know. And also, I think a lot of women who join us today are also, I'm sure there's a budding entrepreneur in all of us somewhere.
We didn't want to be in a comfortable position in life. So we realized that it's just one life you get, and you have to do everything that you really want to do in this life. So yeah, that is true. So corporate is so cushy, to be honest, that you get used to that cushion. That even if you are struggling, even if you're working hard to get promotions and making sure the numbers are met at the end of the day, but then if that passion is somewhere else, I think taking a plunge is not so difficult. I agree that it's a risk. It's a very big risk because you are going away from the convenient route. And if you have studied, if you have if you have education loan, then that's pressure is also there in your head. So Tanya had her own when she quit. So I realized that, but then again, the intent and the passion, if it's somewhere else, I think there's no right time to quit ever. So you can also, some people don't study, finish their graduation, they just quit and start something. Yeah, there's so many success stories of people who have quit. Yeah, so, but even I'm saying, along with the success story, there are also failures. So we were aware about the failures. We knew that it could fail, and we were also scared, equally scared. But then yes, so we wanted to create an impact, and that just drove us, to just leave that fear and give your 100% and see if it's working. If it does not, then we can always figure out other ways, of course. But we wanted to see if we give 100%, then why wouldn't it fly?
So how did you start? What was the first step? Like, how did you plan this? And, did you really think that Suta will become what it is today? So I'm sure, one takes baby steps, especially when you're starting something new. So, how did you go about it? For us, I told you, we are from a family. It's a lower middle class family, and our father was, working with the railways. And for us to study, to make sure that we earn money and not depend on people, that was my mother's only aim. She kept telling us that you cannot depend on people and ask for money, and she kept pushing us. And she told Tanya, if you can't study well, and Tanya, at one point of time, we were both at our lows in our studies. And I remember Tanya's mom told Tanya that, do not worry. If you can't, then I'll open a parlor for you. But you will be independent. So, so I used to be very nervous before exams, and she used to say, "Don't bother, about these marks and stuff. Just go out there and do what you want, but study well. Just make sure you stand on your own 2 feet." And that's what was always there in our mind when we were quitting. I remember the look in our parents' face that, "Are you guys both sure about what you are doing?" I remember that thing what I was constantly telling, and you both studied so well, and you were doing so well. You're drawing money, like you're getting paychecks. And Bombay is a very expensive place, and they were very, very worried, very worried. But we sat with them. We told them, I finished paying the education loan. Sujata doesn't have any loan, and the savings that we have made in these couple of years, we are going to put that money in. We are not going to borrow, so that there won't be any debt. But also, along with our corporate, we were working on Suta for 2 years. So 2015 is when we actually put in our papers. But before that 2 years, we were working parallelly, testing the grounds, making sure we are getting that much cash in. And we made sure that we started with 5 team members. So Tanya, me, there's one more Jaya, and 2 weavers. So that's how we started in 2016. We made sure that in the next 1 year, we promised the weavers will give you full work. And to give that promise, we had to make sure that, the back calculation is happening. So we will get that much money, we'll draw that. So we did that calculation. Both of us were drawing 20,000. We were profitable from the very start, and it was not very difficult to break even because we were very frugal when we started. And with a very little, investment, we started Suta, and it kept turning money, and the working capital was there always. So we made sure those numbers always. That's what I'm saying. So both of us were drawing 20,000 rupees, and I told mom, just don't worry. I can end of the month I can also take you to a restaurant. Don't worry. So and we don't have to ask money from anyone. So that is what made them satisfied, and they said that okay, fine, try for 1 year, take a sabbatical instead of quitting. I said don't bother. We have quite a good reputation in the industry. The paychecks have been good, our promotions have been good. So we will go back. So they were quite satisfied with that, and then
After 2 years, there was no looking back because our parents also joined us, and they're quite happy doing what they're doing now.
Wow, this is a dream come true. And I think this is, sugar drops in everybody's ears who want to set up business. I think lessons here for all of us. One, I think when you start, you did it very, very smartly, where you continued with the job and did this to figure out, on the side, whether this is really working, not working. I think that's a great lesson. Second, I think also the way you kind of, made sure that you're lean in the beginning, right? So it's not like, okay, starting with a lot of people and then you expand. And I think I love the beauty of the fact that you started with 2 weavers, and I don't know of many people who actually go to that grassroots level and say, okay, we'll start with weavers. So I think that's amazing. And break even, all of these words sound beautiful to a lot of us who are in this startup space. So great going, girls, just amazing. Tell me, while you went around this journey, what about people telling you, how many times have you heard money and finance? Who's going to manage that? You've set up a business. Who's going to manage the money? Who's managing the finance for you? Who's managing setting up the tech for you, etc.? How many times? And, how have you actually done it? And who's doing it?
So this entire Women's Day, I think we have been asked this question, and we've been answering these questions, I think, forever. Since we started working, I think a lot of people ask, who's managing the finance? And I know that people think that is it's gone, it's bygone eras that used to happen. Now we are all equal. But having said that, when you actually go out and do your work, you realize this question come by. I'm sure you also get the question. So I'm saying at any position you are in, right? Whatever you do, that question might come back. World is changing. I believe that. But you getting the question about finance, about tech, it's like inevitable. It's become and then it's not even like people who don't know us, our education background, are asking. People who really know us from our fraternity, they keep asking also, because somewhere down the line they feel that, okay, we will be more invested in the designing part rather than doing the finance bit, because because that's more visible. We are the face, she's the face, I'm the photographer, people know it. And they're even brand owners, to be honest.
Yeah,
they also
brand
said
owners,
that
they ask
if they are doing all the shoots, yeah,
they're doing all the
who is doing the marketing, who is doing the finance, tech kaun sambhalta hai? So so these questions really sometimes haunt us, thinking that, okay, you are a peers, you are also a startup owner. How could you even think about it? Like, I understand some people might not be tech savvy, and it's a genuine call. It's not even about being a man or a woman, but I think anybody could not like tech, or anybody could not like finance. But this question coming again and again to just like the two of us, because you can't see the third co-founder probably, or don't know any. So our entire 90%, 95% of the boardroom is female for us, and it was not a conscious choice. It was not a conscious choice. So both of us manage it. So initially, but to start with, when we started, we did it for the longest time. I think for 3 years, the tech and finance we used to take care of. And even though we have teams for every department now, finance and tech is a strong team that we have. But still, every single day we look at numbers, because without that, that's the backbone of any startup. Without that, it doesn't make sense, because anyone can fool you someday. Having the basic knowledge, the logic right, say 2 plus 2 is 4. At the end of the day, the calculation has to match. So you have to oversee things. Just logically, you have to take care of
exactly.
Things. So logic needs to be in place. Math, loving maths, not loving mathematics. Even if both of us engineers, MBAs, always scored good. But that question comes that who's looking at the final P&L. So who's finalized. Are your husbands taking care of it? That's the worst that I've heard, because he is already working. Otherwise, he would be working for Suta, or they would have joined. But they haven't. They did not take care of it. So.
I think the world is divided into, 2 parts, men and women. But I think the world outside has divided it further into saying, okay, the women are all, right-brained and the men are all left-brained, which is not true. And I think also this whole money bit, right? just making it sound so complicated. I love the fact that you're saying it's just a logical thing, right? And you don't need to be a mathematician to manage your finances, or a scientist to manage a tech platform, right? Your logic will work if you know
I
what
think
you're.
it's not it's not been inherently told to us that it's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing fearful about. In my house, I remember I used to love looking at where my parents have invested money. And, people used to make fun of, like both of us saying, Sujata wants to just take all the property. She knows everything about the house. Like, I know every tiny detail. I used to write down there used to be textbooks, and I used to just note down where you have invested, what is the returns. Yeah, since a very,
I think very young
beginning,
age.
Very
yeah.
young age, yeah. So I remember that. I think nobody told us that it's nothing difficult. And so some people just ignore it. I feel just naturally they just think that, okay, let somebody else look at it. But it's nothing, right? You would know
I
the
think
best. The society has somehow, made a unsaid rule that money matters need to be taken care of by the man of the house and not the female. And it just passes down to everyone, and inherently you just leave it because you are told so, not like literally told so, but yeah, you have seen your father and mother in the house, or uncle or aunts. They all, even if they draw salaries, they just give it to the husbands to take care of it. So I think you're conditioned that way. I think
And what
you're
change.
doing is actually going to break it, right? So I think I love the fact that it's told in such a beautiful way that you can do it. It's nothing. I know, and especially the young girls, because at a very young age, if you start, then there's no looking back.
Absolutely. So exactly the point we started, Lakshmi, right? And we started it, and I'm glad that now the conversation is really, a lot of women are having these conversations, right? I mean, I think this Women's Day, we have spoken about money and women. I cannot tell you, like, probably 8 times, 10 times more than we spoke last Women's Day. So I think glad that that conversation is happening, but also glad that you bring it out, that it's important not to resist it. And I think, I mean, of course, our orientation when we grow up, parents will tell us, even the fact that, Sujata, you said that you were always interested in knowing where is the money, and, people would pull your leg that you're going to take over all the property. I think when a woman says, I want to be rich, for some reason, it's looked at very negatively. I don't know why. I mean, it's just a done thing not to say it aloud, right? And which is why I think our resistance to also work towards it, not just say it aloud. And you were telling me a beautiful story of how, you have women weavers who are men, and like you have men and women, and they're, sometimes families that work and, weave saris for you. And how I'd love for you to share that story, how how the resistance of women there to say, no, don't give me the money, just like, give it to my husband. And that was that's such a beautiful gesture for you to do it. To tell us a little bit more about it.
I used to hate the fact that women don't value themselves as much. In a lot of places I've seen that, and I really, really want to tell them that you're so valuable. What you're doing is, make you earn a lot. It will empower you. So when we went to the villages, initially, the entire family is always involved. It's not just one person in the family who is weaving, because but a lot of processes goes in and around. So like, what do you? So there's a process where the thread is spun around something. So all these processes, it's not just the man who's doing it, but even the mother-in-law, or if there is the mother in the house, or somebody, the wife is doing it. Someone is washing, someone is washing it, drying it. If it's dyed, then it's dried, and everything, all the processes. So it's divided equally, and a lot of people are involved in it. So initially we didn't know that, right? Initially we just got 2 account numbers of the 2 weavers, and we were transferring money there. And then we kept asking. So we were very strict about all our saris to be washed, pre-washed, ironed, put the tassels, and then put the suta sticker, and then ship it to us, on our warehouses. And then we asked, who is doing that? So they said, pipes are managing, don't worry. We are taking care of it. As a family we work. So I said, but how are you dividing it? There is, even if they're doing ironing, let's say you give her 10 rupees per sari. What is it? How do you divide? She's like, why do I pay? So I'm like, then so they just told us, no, you don't worry about all that, you know. And when we went back, we wanted to, because on the phones it doesn't make sense. We went back and we spoke to the wives that how much time do you invest? Like, when do you do it? They have kids, they have grown up kids, they are, managing the schools and stuff. They wake up at 5 a.m., most of them, and, finish the household chores and then start working with the husband, to make sure they are making the, 5, 6 saris, and then again do the household chores in the evening and sleep really, really late.
Yeah. So
It's insane.
it was like they were doing double the work and not even realizing that they can take the money for it. And I'm not saying I'm dividing or I'm doing that it's your money and you become the boss. And I'm not doing that. I'm just saying for simple things, you don't have to ask your husband. Open a bank account. And we actually opened so many bank accounts for female in that villages. And then when
They could not believe they can open bank accounts.
yeah.
मैं तो पढ़ी लिखी नहीं हूँ, how can I open a bank account, right? And that was so silly. I felt that they're not told.
And they just feel that it's okay. Even if they have a bank account, transfer kar do na, I'll take it from them. And it just felt like that's what I'm saying. It's just told that it's okay. And then they don't question it. So we open the bank accounts and finally they get the money. And next time, like later or 2 years later, I think we all had a meeting of only just the women and just having like a conversation. And everyone came up to us and said, you don't know, you've changed our lives. I gifted my husband something. I take my mother-in-law to go eat outside, and they were just like something else. They were just celebrating their life.
I actually literally saw wings in all of them. Like, they were literally flying, and they all wore suta to, thank us. And we didn't even tell them. It was so overwhelming. We were talking to each of them, and we were constantly weeping.
Yeah.
Like, it was like happiness.
We had an interview, and we were just taking it. They were talking and we are crying. I don't know the next question. I couldn't even ask.
Our voices are shivering. How do I talk to you guys? You're just saying such amazing things. They're all feeling so happy about very small things, and they were so empowered. And in such a nice way, they were celebrating this.
Yeah, not even saying the next level of investment. Look, there's this graph they have to cross. But then at least getting money and at least spending it, that's what they realize, and that's amazing. It's just so empowering.
So, there's a saying that when when food is made with love, it just tastes so much better. And I think I know the reason why the Suta saris are so beautiful, because I think now with even more, and being women, I think I can understand, as a woman, you're doing your chore and you're doing something, right? But when you know that it is empowering you, that you're adding value somewhere and you're adding value to yourself, I'm sure that essence goes into what they're weaving as well, or what they're doing for you. So
they sing and weave. There's this group of women, they sing and weave, they sing and put tassels. It's beautiful. So,
wow. So tell me, I'm very curious to know that how do you, on your handle, when I follow you guys come out with newer designs, newer collections, like really quickly, and they're an amalgamation of a lot of different, they're not just one area or one region. It's, how do you think about it? Like, how does it come to you? Who does all of that? Just thinking, okay, this is a new style, or also the way you pair your, I think, the blouses with the saris, and how does that, what is there like a science behind it, or it's just, where do you get that inspiration?
You won't believe that initially we were thinking that, okay, all the brands launch, for example, only 6 collections in the entire year. We launch 3-4 collections in a month. Yeah. So we said that, this is a norm. I think that is what works. So every brand follows that. But, we have so many things to offer. We have so many things like bubbling up, so many projects running.
I think if you ask each one of us, I can just list down hundreds of things I would want to do, and she would also have 100 things. So now that we have a design team. So, and when we all come together, we are all like literally on top of our voices screaming, no, next launch should be this. And then, no, I have already planned this, let me do this. And literally, you won't believe we have so many things in the pipeline. And the beauty about it is, I think the culture, I think that's what leads us to create so many things. The culture in the company is very open. We all have ideas. We all can tell each other that, you stop your idea. I am doing my idea is better. So we have that culture of nourishing each one of us. Anybody can call me and say, Sujata, I think I'll pull you here in this design. I'm getting this problem. So we let ideas flow, like do a free flow of ideas. Even when it comes to financial discussion, in any strategic call, we have this team coming together and taking the call together. I think that's what leads us
And
to
we're
have
very
like, so many things.
transparent, extremely transparent. Even the finance head, he comes up with designs and says that पता है सुजाता, मैं ये सोच रहा था कि आप लोग ऐसा क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो एक I'm like, what just happened to you? So we are open like that, and even tomorrow the operations girl, she can come and tell us the finance decision. You can say there's a loophole here. I think you should check this. I think he the finance guy is not taking a look at this. There's a lot of this thing is
I
happening.
think
Plus,
if we let this open culture, just be there, it helps us also grow as people. And also this empathy, culture of empathy, to just realize that everyone, all of us have a lot of facets to our lives, right? I can be creative, I can be very bossy when it comes to just making the numbers right. I could be so many things. I am just not one character. So if you let everyone's creative juices flow and everyone's minds just go everywhere, I think it just gives a lot of positive value. And at the end of the day, you get so many designs, so many inspirations,
plus
so many
in
ideas.
India, there's so many things to explore. Like, I think I'll become 90 years old and still I'll find new things in India. It's so rich.
Yeah, we haven't touched Bandhani. We haven't done so many.
We
things.
haven't done so many things again.
Yeah.
So
Don't ask me. Just like
Is very close to my heart. I'm from Rajasthan, so I love the laharias and the bandhani and all of that.
haven't done that.
we love it extremely. Yeah.
Yeah, super looking forward. Absolutely. And you mentioned work culture, and I think we also, you said that you have a large portion of your workforce or your team members are women, right? And I when I watch your handle, I also see that both of you are mothers, and I see a very a lot of fluidity in your roles, right? And you just stressed upon that right now, that it's not necessary as a woman. I'm not just my team, actually, when we did Unstereotype, they gave me this whole hoarding. They said, can you pose with this which says boss but not a bitch, right? So I said, okay, right. And we are the way women are looked at, right? So if you're pretty, then you're not proficient. You're meant to be blonde, right? If you are too aggressive, then you are manly, then you're not feminine, right? And I like the way you say that we have lots of facets to us, which reminds me, maybe we're true diamonds, right? But tell me that because you have so many women, and there's how does your workspace, what is it like? And because I see you're a mother, sometimes you're with your child, and similarly with women, what's the culture like with so many women? What's the culture like, and what's the environment like?
It's so beautiful. I can't
so
begin
beautiful
to tell you.
To be honest, it's a very I'll tell you how our office is. So if you go even on a Sunday, let's say you just land up in our office, you'll see just people walking around and working, and you'll wonder what happened. Sundays are off. People say, I love Suta more than my house. Let me just come over and let me just sit. We'll just have chai and just work, finish some work.
So Monday will be less.
So it's just so happy. And Tanya and me always wanted to have a happy place. And we always, when we were young, we wanted to sell happy things. We thought we'll make nests, we'll make anda inside, and we'll sell those. And random things, just whatever makes us happy.
Our games used to be those, what should we make today and sell in a cart? So we would imagine things and put things across with handkerchiefs and stuff, and we used to just make new things.
So I think that's how we wanted our office, which is very happy. And to be honest, we really hated when we saw negativity in. I've seen negativity in some of our corporate, like pockets of it, and I always felt that is not how we should work at all, because it just affects you. And I want all the women in the team, and also the men in the team, want them to go back home and spend time with their kids and spend time with their husbands or wives and be happy and just enjoy life. And at the end of the day, what are we doing, right? If we are just not happy about anything in what we are doing, what's the point of all of that? And what's the point of me and Tanya quitting? And I would not say struggling, we're happy what we're doing.
I'll tell you a scenario also. So the other day we went for a shoot in a hotel, and there I think Kabir was 3 months old then. We went for the shoot, and I could not take Kabir along because I was feeding him. So I took my nanny and my father, put him in a hotel room, and we were shooting around. And in between, we had three of us together from the office also. So I said, okay, you guys sit here, watch TV, look that side, and then I'll finish feeding. and then again back in 5 minutes after your coffee round, I'll come back and shoot. So there's so much flexibility around. Everyone is so
with
supportive.
everybody in the team. Like I know a lot of women just go back home for feeding because we have 2 or 3 new mothers in the company. So we are just open. So when you don't want to, when there is a lot of pressure in the house, we do give people off, because we feel that if they come back from that and then put their energies there, it will be a 300%, more productive work. So, and we really believe that.
I also think that sometimes we are too judgmental in the society, right? I mean, not sometimes, like we're always judgmental. And not only towards the women, but also towards the man. In our company, there's this girl who is, doing really well in the company and is earning really good. And she has a 1-year-old now. So they have decided as a family that the man of the house is taking care of the baby, because the girl is more driven towards what she's doing, and she's really passionate. She doesn't want to quit,
and she's so happy. She said, Didi, I know we looked at you and we realized that आप लोग इतना judge नहीं करते हैं, so why should we be like this? So she's so bold and she's saying, मेरा husband संभाल रहा है मेरे baby को.
And I really I'm happy that this time is coming when the man is also really happy to agree that I'm more happy in the house, and I want to cook, I want to take care of the child, and he's doing it without the pressure of the society. I'm so proud of
beautiful,
him.
right? It's unstereotyping. So.
It's completely unstereotyping.
Totally. And I think it's high time. I'm glad we are having these conversations. That's the aim of Lakshmi, to have these conversations and say, don't judge by the norms that we've lived by, right? And coming to that, one of the norms has been, we mentioned men manage money. Tell me, do you guys invest your money? And that's the big norm, right? That men should invest the money. So would love what you guys do with your money. Do you invest it? And what has your journey been like?
I am a big investor. I love seeing my money grow, and I just hate the fact that the money is lying somewhere without any growth happening there. So I'm so strict about making sure I take out some time from my, any schedule. Like if I'm with my son, or if I have a lot of hectic work schedule, I make sure once a month I take out time and sit with my portfolio. I look at it and make decisions based on what my priorities are in my life. So I make sure, and I sit with her as well, right? Because I'm more interested. So
so I'm not as I don't watch my money like a hawk like she does, but seeing her, I get motivated, and I also sit like once a month at least. But I think it's really important to know where you're going, because in future, if you want to invest, if you want to grow, buy something or invest in something big,
you have to plan it. Whether you want money to be taken out, withdrawn immediately, put it in a safe place where it's easy to withdraw, make it liquid. And if you can put the money in equity from like a very high growth company where you see the company grow, put the money in and don't look at it, because that money is not going anywhere. Later on, you'll take it out. I'm not saying it's a compulsion that you should do it, but even if you do not know it, putting in a little bit effort, it's like, it's fun, right?
It's like learning something new.
It's like raising something on your own. It's like watering a plant and seeing it grow. It's like that. So I think it's just an interesting thing. Some people just don't look at it in that
I think
way.
it's just a scary topic, because it's your hard-earned money, and you don't want to lose it, and sometimes you just think that putting it in the savings account is the best.
So, I remember for the longest time I used to file my taxes, and I was so hell-bent on not losing even one bit of money if I can save it. So my friends used to think I'm just like so psycho about money that I'm just not letting somebody else do it. But I always used to love it, and I feel that it just
that way.
we're different that way. Of course, I'm not saying we have to be similar, but then I'm saying it's just fun if you think in that way.
So I think you don't have to be really knowledgeable about everything that's happening. You don't have to be finance major to understand these things. It's very simple, and I just you have to be thorough with things and note down things that you want to do.
Or you start SIP where somebody else is doing it for you.
Yeah, that's what I do. I trust others.
3 takeaways from what you just shared. One is that investing your money is not complicated. You need to start taking those steps, and then it's fun and you'll enjoy it. Second, I think very important, and Sujata, great you spelled it out, that whatever money you need for your short term or immediate, try and put it in something which is safe and liquid, which is essentially debt or savings or whatever, right? Savings account, etc. Whatever is long term, if you want to put your money in equities, then leave it for long term. Don't like watch it every day, right? And the third thing is that investing, between even the two of you, you are both got different viewpoints when it comes to money. And I think therefore investing for me is not the same as investing for you, and investing for Tanya is not the same as investing for Sujata. So it's a very personalized journey, and therefore I think, which is why it makes it important for a woman to be involved in understanding what her money is doing and is it suited to what she wants out of her money, right? So which is why, which is what we keep saying in Lakshmi also, just try and understand where your money is going. So guys, these two smart ladies are spelling it out for you, so you better believe them, right? Okay, great. I think we're getting a lot of questions. One of the very interesting questions, which even I want to know, that how is it working with weavers? How challenging is it? Because, and I've done, by the way, I've done commodity future markets, and I know that when you go into unorganized markets, the language is different, the way you deal is different. Would love to know what is your experience dealing with weavers on ground, and, how, like, what did it really, entail for you to start doing that journey? And today, how many weavers do you work with?
Oh, when we started long back, I think we started with 2, right? We already spelled the number. Now we have 14,000 plus weavers and craftsmen.
Wow.
It's huge. I know, it's huge. And we recently did the audit and we were so happy and we were like, wow.
Yeah.
When did the family become so big? It's so beautiful. And yeah.
As you said, it's really unorganized, and it was very, very difficult to start making sense out of the clutter that is there. We don't want to work with middlemen. That's the easiest way to do things in a business, because you just interact with one person and he will be taking care of everything, and he'll be taking a cut from the weavers and from our side, because you don't know what the cut is. So we wanted to break this, and that's why we started, and hence we go to the ground level always. And it's really difficult, to be honest. A is language, but then we started with West Bengal, so thankfully we were we were Bengalis, so that helped there. That was our first factory. There are 2 factories in West Bengal we set up, where the entire quality check happens. We are so picky and hell-bent about quality, because we wanted to make sure that even if we don't do so fanfare about the packing, or put too many things, we had to make sure that the product speaks for itself. So that's where we invested a lot of time and effort. And again, as I said, it was a very, very baby step. 2 became 4, then became 10, then became 20, and very slowly. And to be honest, it is a slow step that actually helped us stay strong, because I think the foundation needs to be really, really strong when it comes to making sense that the quality stays fine. Yeah, we always
payment
believe
structure
that.
is good.
Yeah, payment structure is another important bit. And that is how, the weavers started talking amongst themselves. It was, initially it was difficult to enter a place, certain space, because they don't know us initially. And what will talk? Our faces. And they think that, initially they always think that you're young and, you're girls, you will vanish. And, breaking that chain of working with a middleman and coming with us on board was really a tough
Difficult,
decision,
because they will have to say no to their original plan, right? So saying no and then coming on board with 2 people they don't know, that was difficult for them. So we had to guarantee a lot of things. Like, we were making sure constantly. I know there was one bad thing that we did. We always kept telling my father is the boss, because somehow, I know it just sounds like,
it was easier.
It was easier for us. And to be honest, when a lot of people say that why you pay women's card, and I feel, dude, we are dealing with so many things in life. Let me play any card I want to. Man's card.
I have a card, I'll play it.
Let me play.
It's just annoying to the core that when only women only say that, oh, these girls are playing women card again.
I'm like, dude, it's okay,
Initially, I used to feel bad. Then I said that, okay, I have a women card, I'll play it. So whatever.
So yes, so the weavers, to get them on board, especially different states. When we moved to different states, we went to Tamil Nadu and we went to UP. I was very difficult to make sure that they start trusting us. But our payment structure speaks for itself. It's very, very free, very, very transparent. The moment the products, we say the quality is okay, the payment reaches their account. So that's how we made sure that more and more weavers joined us.
And this was, became the talk of the town. And then slowly and slowly in that area, it grew. So from 2, it was faster to grow when 3-4 we were
But
stuck.
tracking the first bit was difficult. Yeah.
And now we follow the same model. We've seen that this works. Couple of people trusting you, and then they talk about it, and then slowly the base grows faster. And now that we have a name in the industry, they already know us. Like
So
a
it's
lot
easy,
of them
yeah.
know us. So it's not as difficult now. Especially during pandemic.
COVID was
so
when-
many viewers reach out to us because of technology and their regular route of applying to stores and other places
It was broken, sadly.
it was
Yeah.
really sad, but again, because they were so tech savvy now, the kids are tech savvy, so they reached out to us because Suta has a name. I'm really glad that by till now we have already a name and they could reach out to us.
We
so
onboarded many of weavers and craftsmen on Suta during the COVID times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been, and I think COVID times has been really good because I think online shopping, and you had the stocks, you were continuously designing, you didn't stop that. And I'm glad that you also employed weavers. And I completely get, it's not easy. People say, oh, you've set up a business, it's so simple, saris, but it's not. Working with the weavers is not a piece of cake. To begin that, to set up your brand, even within the weavers, to make sure that there's transparency, to disrupt that piece, it needs time, right? And it needs effort and it needs consistency. And I think that's true for all brands, right? Great. I think you are your brand. You two are your brand, right? You model your saris. So what does today for every woman out there? What does Suta stand for? What is, if I wear a Suta sari, what does it stand for?
it stands for, I think, comfort. A woman who wears a sari values comfort more than looks, norms,
Or
judgments.
anything.
Because earlier saris were thought to be, I've heard a lot of things. Saris are only worn during occasion. Elderly women wear it. So there were a lot of questions around it. But now I think a person can just buy like a plain sari and wear it like a queen and say, I don't go to a disc, and go to movies, go for regular dinners or cafes.
Yeah.
They should not need an occasion, and we know that our saris stand for independence because all these when you break all these barriers and notions that were always there, those questions, you are independent. You are independent to think
In
the
the
way you
mind,
are.
I'm not saying monetarily. I'm not saying that who don't wear are not
You
not
have to feel independent.
You just feel independent. Or just feel like you own it. You just
and people who love to be in their own skin, because our saris also, it's like second skin, we call it, and it wraps around you the way you are. So I think we stand for that. Be proud of who you are and know yourself and be in your own skin. And independence.
Great. We're getting so many comments. There are people, somebody's just commented, somebody has 19 pairs of your blouses, and somebody's just commented saying, my wife loves your brand. So we also have men watching this. 3 cheers to all of you. I think it's so great to have men a part of these conversations. It's heartwarming.
A lot of men wear our saris. They
Yes.
love our saris.
So they wear it like a dhoti, and some people wear it like normal sari, like with this. So I know a lot of men, Suta, so we call them queens as well. So everyone wears Suta saris. I'm just like super proud. And to be honest, yes, that just shows that you are comfortable on your own skin. You're not scared of stereotypes. And hence, the more and more men who just feel like wearing it, wear anything. And women who feel like wearing anything, wear anything. It's just breaking stereotypes, right? So it's just cool.
Amazing. Great. And I there's one point that every time I look at, see, online shopping, buying, e-commerce today has become such a big thing, especially during COVID. I think all of us took to online, right? Today I hate going out and buying, shopping physically, going out and buying anything, right? And it's very interesting when I look at your price points. I mean, it makes me think that the audacious amount, the vulgar amount of money that people spend on brands, right? On wearing international brands, not made in India, you would spend enormous amount of money, just to kind of raise your fashion quotient, etc. And I find your price points are, you know, they're very clearly in a very, very sweet spot, very affordable, and yet so stylish, right? um, and to me, I think that's saying a lot. It is saying that this is a brand that you're making in India. It is a brand that takes your style quotient to another level, and most importantly, you are not spending ludicrous amounts of money that one does, right? On, you know, especially on a lot of the international and Western clothes brands that you would spend. So I think I love that fact about your brand, and what it translates for me on Lakshmi is that saying, guys, shop here, save money, and invest, right? so, so what we and yet be very, very stylish, right? um,
One, just I'll add, because you're talking about affordability. I think one thing that all entrepreneurs, if entrepreneurs are watching us, should just remember that staying frugal helps. You know, and also planning your uh, journey and planning the entire year, probably. Even small things. I would give example. For example, we buy things at the start of the month, even stationery, so that, you know, the numerous trips for, you know, fuel wastage and things don't happen. And small things, you know, in making sure that, because we do photo shoots ourselves, and initially we started because there was no money, and, you know, you want to save, but then later on it became the brand identity. Now people like seeing me, so, you know, I'm constantly doing it, and we love doing it, to be honest. So remembering what you want to offer till the end, you know, what is that you want to keep the same and what you want to keep changing, and making sure you stay frugal so that all these money gets added to your product. Remembering that helps, I think, for all entrepreneurs, making sure that you break it down and figure out what is getting added to the product. Yeah, we have seen that people do a lot of fancy mistakes when they have a lot of money in a certain period. It's all, of course, there the lows and highs. During the highs, you think that, you know, you have money and you will invest in say random thing like a big office which is not needed, with essentially AC offices, but you can always have well ventilated offices, right? Where you can have like really like a comfortable environment also, and during only like peak summers you can put the AC on. Very small thing, but, you know, you save on a lot of things during this phase. Then people do like Friday night parties on the house, and booze parties, and, you know, they offer you a bowl of fruits, and those companies, you know, these are the small mistakes, you know, financially, if you calculate how much your expense should be. I think these planning should help, even in entrepreneurship, plus personally. Correct. Even capping your expenditure to anything, your spends, probably in vegetables or in clothing or in unnecessary thing or indulgence. Planning those caps, I think, helps you have a more, I would not say satisfied life, but at least a plan. I am a planner. I just make sure everything is to the T. But even if you're not, it just gives you a lot of comfort, thinking that, okay, my money is getting there. I will have so much by the end of the month. That's how my planning should be. And even for business, I think it matters a lot.
Absolutely. I think so well said. And I think it's important. You've highlighted the need to be lean, to be very mindful of what you're spending on, what your overheads are. And I think that's just something that people don't have an eye on, right? And especially once you've got your product market fit. And this is what I want to offer at these price levels. To continuously stay conscious of that is very, very important. And you guys have been doing it brilliantly. So, once again, congratulations. So for our viewers, just what, would love to hear from you. So why do we need, this is what I face, right? When I asked you a question that do women know finance, can you manage your money, etc. What we face at Lakshmi, especially from the men, why do you have a platform only for women, right? What is the need for a platform only for women to manage their money? So would love your thoughts on that. Why do you think, do you think we need one, and why do you think we need one?
It's a deep, beautiful question, actually. So it's the same question that people ask. Anyway, there is a lot of equality, and if you want to be equal, why do you have to call yourself a feminist? It's the same thing, I feel. So it's just that you have to talk about a lot of points again and again for that to become a norm. We are probably top 1% of women who have the privilege of talking. Some people do not, and some people are just looking up to you, thinking, but I should do it, not do it. These guys are there, they can speak, so they are not speaking. Should I also speak? So I think these Me Too movements, or women support women, all these women entrepreneurs, I
And also
understand.
very simple things like vocal for local, because
If you talk about it,
it needs
just
to be talked.
yeah, it's just get inside your head. So basically, if you and me, let's say you've started Lakshmi for women, we are doing something saris for women. We felt that there is something which was not being done. We felt like doing it. We're talking about it. It's actually spreading the messages to people who need to hear that. It's
Yeah, I think people need to be told, and we need to hear it constantly to make it a habit.
Yeah.
And even at Suta, we have a very beautiful community, mostly of women, uh, and they support each other. Even at Lakshmi, you need a lot of people to, only girls, in fact, young girls. It's like a safe space to go
Yeah.
to. We need those.
Exactly. So somebody, like, let's say, many years down the line, when I didn't know something, like, let's say a very simple question about, I don't know, I had so many doubts. Like when I started, I had like so many doubts about investments and stuff, and I didn't know who to ask. And I used to feel scared, and I literally wanted to learn, and I was so hungry to learn. And I was not from that industry that I can just, I have peers who are working on it. So I didn't know exactly who to ask. And somebody from platform like Lakshmi, if it would have been there, I would have just quickly asked. And the fear of not getting judged. And even a place like Suta, where we make sure that nobody judges, or even if there's a troll happening for a woman happening, we make sure we take a stand, and we're very strict about it. So, I think creating a safe space is very important. I understand it's just for one gender now. You could become like huge again, and
Yeah, you
start
never
for
know.
every gender. So that's what I'm saying. It's a start point. We are doing what we feel there is a need to do, and we'll move on if we feel there's a change has happened already, and we have just made everyone
Yeah.
financially independent. If you've done it, probably we'll move on and do something bigger with it. So I think it's beautiful what we are doing, and we should just keep doing it and proudly doing it.
Great. No, lovely to hear that. And you're right. We, even in Lakshmi, we have a community called Being Lakshmi, where women come and ask all questions on obstacles, challenges, opportunities about money without being judged, because it's a closed community of only women. And you're right. We do not find that. I think one of the reasons why women don't ask these questions is because they feel that, what if somebody thinks this is a silly question to ask? What if this is a stupid question to ask, right? So I think we've created that safe space, and I think that's what you guys are also doing. I think we resonate in a lot of ways. I think Suta and Lakshmi, I love the fact that wearing a Suta makes you feel independent. It makes you feel confident. All of those things are exactly what Lakshmi wants to also bring to the table. So great synergies. And I truly believe in women standing with women, because we have a long way to go. I think, while we are progressing, but I think it's still a long way for us to go to really have an equal world, and an equal and healthy world. And I think we're all in our own ways working towards it. Sujata, Tanya, thank you so much. This is brilliant. I have so many questions for you, but unfortunately we have a timeline. I've got, I myself have so many questions. So we'll do that some other day, but thank you for joining us. Lots of love. Keep doing the wonderful work. Keep posing for your saris in your saris. Keep writing the beautiful stories that you write, and keep inspiring us. And I think we are all, I love the way today that the young women are inspired by you, want to wear saris. So to more power to an Indian woman. So thank you so much.
All the Lakshmis in us.
Yay!
Thank you, guys. Thank you. More power. Bye.